We already drove the 2013 Scion FRS several months ago in Japan and walked away thoroughly impressed that it was everything the Toyota sports car was hyped to be. But there's a lot of stuff we didn't know back then, starting with the price. We also had yet to drive the 2013 Hyundai Genesis Coupe, a car that's arguably its major competitor. And on top of all that, we only drove it on a racetrack, which is very important to distinguish a car's performance potential, but it's not the only measure when looking at a vehicle like this. So today we're going to take a much more in-depth look at the 2013 Scion FRS, starting behind the wheel. As for that steering wheel, it's 365 millimeters in diameter, which is very small for any car, and it fits really nice in the hands. It's not too thick on the rim, though, unlike, say, like the BMW 1M Coupe. Also notable, this is an automatic model, and it has paddle shifters for the 6-speed automatic transmission, which is actually surprisingly quick. As for the gauges, you've got the tachometer front and center, which is very important. The speedometer over on the left-hand side is kind of stupid because it goes to about 60 miles an hour only a quarter of the way up. So it's a good thing they've actually put a digital readout of your speed right on the tachometer as well. One neat feature that Scion's thrown in is a shift light, and you can actually set by 100 RPM increments exactly when you want it to go off. As for the seats, they're really nicely bolstered, both in the shoulders and on the sides. They're not super high-grade material, but they do look nice from a distance, and this is an affordable sports car after all. On top of that, the seats, the base of them sits 15 inches off the ground, really giving you a go-kart feeling. On the dash here, you've got this sort of fake carbon fiber plastic, which is kind of cool, kind of cheesy, depends on your opinion. That's nothing compared to the ultra ghetto audio system face here. It just looks super cheap, although surprisingly, it's actually a pretty decent unit. It's 300 watts, and it's got 8 speakers in the car, so that's good. The rest of the dials and knob here are pretty low grade as well, although as a nice touch, the FRS branded floor mats aren't something you have to pay extra. They actually come standard in the car. Despite being an amazing performance machine, the FRS is a true Toyota in the sense that it won't beat you up to drive it around. The steering isn't too heavy, the seats aren't uncomfortable. It's just something you can live with every day. Along with that is the automatic transmission on this car. Now, usually with sports cars, we don't care for automatic transmissions, and again, it's not what we would choose, but it is exceptionally good on this vehicle. So good you won't believe it. If you're out on the racetrack, you might even think you've got a dual clutch transmission and not a conventional automatic. There really are some important engineering reasons why the FRS is such a great handling car. For starters, it has an ultra-low center of gravity, lower even than the Porsche Cayman. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that it uses a flat 4 boxer engine that sits really low in the car. It also sits quite far back in the car, meaning that it has an excellent weight balance with 53% of the weight over the front of the car and 43% over the rear. Combine that with a tight 13:1 steering ratio, and it really helps you get the most out of this vehicle's balance. And of course, perhaps the most important factor is just how little the FRS weighs. At 2,758 pounds for the manual transmission and 2,806 pounds for the automatic. Now that has to do with a lot of factors to cut weight, items like an all aluminum hood, as well as the fact that Toyota says these are the lightest production wheels they've ever put on a car. The engine, of course, is a 2-liter boxer engine sourced from Subaru, and it's been fitted with a Toyota direct injection system. Now, the result is 200 horsepower at 7,000 RPM, a pretty high revving engine, and it makes 151 foot-pounds of torque at 6,600 RPM. Now, that might sound pretty high, but actually most of that torque is available as low as 2,500 RPM, and whether you're driving on the street or the track, you really feel that way. As a boxer engine, it does have its very own unique growl, and on top of that, Scion really wanted to amplify the experience, and so they fitted sort of a sound resonator that actually feeds some of the volume of the engine into the cabin, right near the passenger footwell. And because an affordable sports car should be cheap, not just to buy, but to actually own, it gets pretty solid fuel economy numbers too. We're talking about 22 miles per gallon on the city and 30 on the highway, and that's for the less efficient 6-speed manual transmission. If you opt for the automatic, you'll get 25 miles per gallon in the city and 34 on the highway. Other things you should know about the FRS is that it comes standard with keyless entry. There's actually enough space in the trunk with the rear seats down to hold a spare set of tires if you want to take it to the track. And it comes in a selection of cool named colors, things like whiteout, firestorm, asphalt, and hot lava. With the obvious price comparison and the fact that it's really targeted at the Generation Y set, this will be compared a lot to the Hyundai Genesis Coupe. But still, the Scion FRS remains the #1 choice for those who understand that it's not just about the numbers, but the driving feel of a car. Still, Scion has been very smart, putting the price of the FRS at $50 less than the Hyundai Genesis Coupe at $24,200. Now, to make it even more appealing is the fact that you have to think any enthusiast would really take a Hyundai Genesis Coupe in R-Spec trim, and that'll actually cost you $2,000 more than the FRS. Sold in what Scion calls a mono-spec trim, there's really just one way to get your FRS, meaning they've avoided any expensive add-on kits. You can, however, get a la carte options on top of that, and soon Scion will be offering all kinds of extra performance goodies for this car, ranging from lowering springs to upgraded brakes and bigger sway bars. But the important thing about the FRS is that it doesn't need them. It's already an amazing performance machine. Earlier, I did say that a car's on-track performance is just one of the many factors that you have to look at to judge a vehicle like this. But when it does come to a sports car, it's the most important. So beyond the great looks and the really affordable price, it's the on-track performance of the FRS that makes it not just a sports car, but an icon.